Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Michael Hall. The title of tonight's episode is Back to the Future. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. And joining us for this episode, we have two spectacular guests lined up for you. But for the first one, my man, Mr. Nick Akridge from Pro Football Focus, everyone's favorite guy on Twitter. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
He's also become everyone's favorite guy on the radio as well, so don't forget that.
Yeah, well, we gave him some practice, and look at him. He's blossoming, like the little beautiful butterfly that he is. But
don't forget where I came from, though.
Yeah. Nick, I have to ask you, in regards to, we're going to get into the playoff game against the Bucs this weekend on Sunday night, but first things first, the season is over. If you could give us a top 5 accumulated, combined from all 17 games, Washington's top 5 highest rated players.
Yeah, so first up, barely, is Bobby Wagner, 89.9. Right after that, Jayden Daniels, 89.6. Scooting down a little bit just because Mariota's only played 100 snaps. But after that, it's Terry McLaurin, 79.2. Brian Robinson, 72.5. Jeremy Chin, 69. Zacchaeus, 72. I missed that one. So there's a bunch of people kind of can join around the 70s and whatnot, but big ones are Daniels and Wagner.
Who would you say is the biggest surprise for you this year, either good or bad, if you want to list both?
Yeah, honestly, this might be an easy answer, but I think Jayden Daniels is my biggest surprise. Like I thought that he would be serviceable, and I think that the biggest thing we would want to see is kind of growth throughout the year, especially after that first game, which we'll probably talk about. But the fact that he was as good as he is already is honestly pretty incredible. If I didn't have to kind of have that easy pick, I'd probably say Mike Sanderson as well. I think, again, when you come in the league as a rookie corner, you're going to struggle, and he did a little bit. But then when he kind of got moved outside into a position he hadn't played, I think he kind of stepped up and played really, really well. So I think those two would kind of be my biggest surprise, and it just happens that they are both rookies.
Yeah, I would say another surprise, just based off of everyone's expectations coming into the year, was the offensive line. And I would say they played pretty well overall. I don't know how they graded out on you guys' system, but just how would you grade, like PFF-wise or just yourself-wise, how would you grade the O-line throughout the regular season?
I think it's been really up and down. I think the best addition was Biotish. I think he's been really, really good for them. He's been so important to what they do. And you see when Biotish isn't in there, it's just a completely different offensive line. That's no disrespect to Dieter. He's coming in and he's doing what he can, but Biotish is very, very good at what he does. Him and Sam Cosmi kind of, next to each other is a very, very good pairing. But I think overall, this unit was not that much better than they were last year, which I know might surprise a few people, but I think the biggest thing when you're looking at offensive line play is the quarterback, how he handles the pressure, and the offensive play calling. And I think Kliff did a very good job of, not putting these guys in spots where they have to, drop back and block 60 times a game and hold on for 4 seconds. And that's a lot of what you saw last year where, Howell was holding the ball for 4 seconds because, the play call is calling for him to take a 7-step drop and it's going to take guys a while to get open, and that just was never going to work. But this year you've seen a much better, a much better offensive coordinator kind of call plays to protect his offensive line, a lot of play action, a lot of chips. And I think you've seen a unit kind of, that's really helped them. And then obviously having Jayden back there who, even when you get pressure to him, it's going to be really hard to take him down.
And what would you say, Nick, comparing, contrasting from week 1, going back and watching that film, to now after week 17, what do you think the biggest difference is with Jayden in between that time?
Man, where do I start? That week 1 game had me very, very concerned. and it was only week one, and I'm glad I didn't say some reckless stuff after it. But I think his decision making, his confidence, everything is just night and day different. There was some open stuff that entire game, week one against the Bucs, and he just wasn't willing to hit it. Maybe not confident at that point. Even in the run game, it just didn't look as good. But ever since then, he's been a completely different player. Like what we saw week one is nowhere close to what this team and Jayden Daniels was. And I don't even know if you can really look at that game tape and take anything from it.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Definitely going to be a great matchup come Sunday night. You mentioned the run game, and outside of Jayden Daniels just being Jayden Daniels and putting his Superman cape on, the running game, I mean, Tennessee, obviously they went crazy, but I feel like they were playing like a high school team that week. But outside of that, they haven't really ran the ball as well with like B-Rob, Rodriguez, whoever's back there. What do you think the problem has been? And looking forward to Sunday night, do you think they're going to be able to run the ball against this stout Tampa Bay defense?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really tough. For both offense and defensive line to perform well against Tampa. Um, Offensive line has been struggling as of late. I think it really just kind of come down to execution and that lack of execution that you get when you have guys coming in that haven't played in a while. Again, Dieter coming in for Biotish and Trent Scott sometimes coming in, and you got just rotating guys everywhere along the offensive line, and I think that has led to a lack of cohesion. Execution has been rough from them, and that's really all it comes down to. I think. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's anything really on the running backs or really on the play calling. I think at some point you just have to make blocks and you have to hold on to blocks and you've got to do your job. And I think that's been the biggest problem right now. And I don't know if that's going to get fixed in 1 week and playing against a good defense like Tampa.
My man. And now let's go back to the future, so to speak, here, Nick. And from week one, the secondary is immensely different. Not only because Emmanuel Forbes is no longer here, but Benjamin St. Juste was considered the number one cornerback at that point. Now we have added Marshawn Lattimore, who will be playing this Sunday, most likely. I'm not sure if we've gotten a definite on that, but he's trending in that direction. Mikey Sammer's still getting put to the slot. How do you think that the secondary is going to be deployed against Tampa Bay? Obviously, the first time they played them, Chris Godwin was the leading receiver for Tampa. So how do you think these guys are going to match up? Obviously, we're all looking forward to Lattimore versus Evans, but how else would you deploy these guys?
Yeah, I think like you said, it starts with Lattimore, and it does look like he's trending towards playing, which is huge. I don't know how they hold on if he doesn't play, but I think you see kind of similar stuff to what we saw against the Eagles, where Lattimore is going to follow. He followed A.J. Brown, so he's going to follow Mike Evans, and then from there you've got Sanders still, going against guys like Jalen McMillan, and you're going to have Igbenogany against guys like Sterling Shepard in the slot, and I think that's how it's going to play out, and you're going to kind of hold on for dear life there. And I think that's what they've essentially been doing throughout the year. It's just kind of holding on and kind of just doing all they can to kind of make up for, just their lack of kind of overall talent back there. But I think they've done just enough. It's been tough at times, but I think, if you get, like we said, if you get Lattimore back, you've got Lattimore, Sanders still, Igbenogany, who has played pretty well kind of coming into the slot. So I think you've got a chance.
Yeah, I agree. Throughout the year, I think if you want to talk about week one as well, a lot of people coming off that game were scrutinizing Kliff about the offense, all the screens, all the lateral stuff. But as you mentioned, once people kind of went back and looked at it, there was stuff that was open. It's just obviously Jayden wasn't pulling the trigger, wasn't seeing it well. How would you assess Kliff's season throughout the whole regular season? And how do you see him calling this game against Tampa Bay now that this offense has basically just totally changed from week one?
Yeah, I was one of those people. Like I said, I had to
I
stop
was one of them
myself
too. I was one of them too.
I just stopped myself from saying some reckless stuff watching the games live. But when you went back and, like you said, when you went back and watched it, there was some stuff there. It just wasn't getting hit. In that first game and even really in that first half against the Giants in week two, there was some stuff that you would you want your quarterback to hit. And so that's why I kind of held my tongue on saying anything about Kliff. And then you kind of saw what happened when that quarterback was able to hit it. And then Jayden has played phenomenal ever since then. But I was not huge on the Kliff hire. I mean, I won't lie about that. I did not know what to really expect. But I think what he's done coming into this year, the way he uses tempo and the way he's able to kind of still get guys to, perform at their absolute best, even with the amount of tempo that they use, I think is a really underrated thing. You see a lot of offenses that are going to huddle every single time, and there's so many details that you got to remember when you're in these plays. But for this offense to do this at a rapid pace is pretty impressive. So I think that is obviously huge. I think he was very creative in the run game, very creative with how he uses Jayden Daniels. That's been, as of late, it has not gone well. We kind of already touched on that, but I think overall this has been far better than I think anyone could have expected from what we saw from Kliff.
Yeah, totally agree with you in that sense. But now with Tampa, how are they going to be able to beat Tampa? Tampa's offense right now, they're top 5 in all like major offensive categories like red zone conversion rate, points per game, passing yards, rushing yards, and on third down conversion percentage. So that obviously we have our own offense that's top 5 in a lot of areas. But if you're Washington, how are you able to be able to control this offense?
Yeah, it's kind of like I said with the secondary, they're just going to have to hold on. And we've seen it in these weeks past where, hey, they're going to move the ball down the field. But when you get into the red zone, you've got to make plays and you've got to kind of step up there. And I think that's the way they're going to win. They're going to move the ball. Where Tampa, they just are. We've seen this run defense has really struggled as of late. The defensive line is not getting pressure, not getting movement in the run game. So, and the Bucs have a really good offensive line. So that's going to be a huge problem there. And, their wide receivers against our secondary, that's another huge question. So, you're really just kind of hoping for them to hold on as best as they possibly can, and then Jayden Daniels is just gonna have to be a superhero. And I think that's the way you win the game, and that's what having a guy like Jayden Daniels is. You're gonna be in every single game. Like there's not a team out there that they won't be in a game because of how good he is, and that's what you kind of have to bet on. Defense has to just hold up as long as they can, and Jayden is just gonna have to keep doing what he's been doing.
Yeah, right. Tampa right now on third down conversion percentage, they are first in the league, completing just over 50% of the time. Sorry, Hall.
Yeah, going back to week 1, you saw that the line was getting pressure. Joe Witt was sending some pressure, and they were getting to Baker. It's just they couldn't get him down. Baker was doing Baker things, getting out of stuff, squirming through stuff. Do you think that Joe Witt kind of comes in with that same game plan? I mean, obviously, playoffs as compared to like week 1 where guys are like way more fresh. So you never know how guys are going to be able to pass rush or blitz or whatnot. But do you think that he comes in with that same game plan of let's pressure Baker, let's get after him in hopes of bringing him down and not kind of picking him apart like he did last time? Or do you think he has, like you said, kind of the more conservative route of let's put Lattimore and Evans and just go from there?
Yeah, it's been kind of what they've been doing all year. They run a lot of not really blitzes, but they send five guys. They run a lot of bear fronts where you've got 3 down linemen and 2 edges on the outside. So 5 guys are rushing a lot of the time, which does put more stress on the secondary. But it's been something they've needed to do because they can't really generate pressure with just 4. So it's something that they've kind of done all year. I don't see that changing. But like you said, once you're back there, you got to make the play, and they have as of late throughout the season. But I don't see them changing much. They're going to keep sending 5. They're going to keep sending. Frankie Lou is going to come off the edge. He's going to blitz from a linebacker spot. So they're not going to change much there. You got to make the play when you get back there. And that's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, turnovers. If this is a time for Washington
Please catch the ball, whoever gets the chance.
to really generate some turnovers, and honestly, this would be the game I'd be telling the big boys up front and linebackers, get your hands up. Baker isn't the tallest guy in the world. Let's see if we can get one popped, and obviously they've been working on catching some balls. Let's make sure that happens, all right, and be able to control this football game. But to wrap this up, Nick, only a couple more questions for you, brother. An unsung hero you could see from Sunday night's game.
I just kind of mentioned this when I was on with Granddaddy. I think Zach Ertz is gonna. I think if you see Washington kind of come away and win this game, I think he's got a massive game. One of the weaknesses of the Bucs defense, they kind of struggle against tight ends, and Zach Ertz has been very, very good this year. Outside of Terry McLaurin, he's been their most important pass catcher. I think what he's done to help Jayden throughout this year, just constantly understanding coverages, knowing where weaknesses are in zones and stuff like that. He's been phenomenal this year. I can't say enough good things about him. I do talk about his lack of yards after catchability all the time, but it doesn't matter if you keep catching the ball, and that's what he's been doing right now. So I think that would be kind of a big, kind of a under the radar sort of for a guy.
My man, besides Jayden Daniels, my next question for you,
Mm-hmm.
who has to have a good game in order for Washington to be put in a position to win?
Marshawn Lattimore. I think
Okay.
if you can get Lattimore to lock down Evans, I think that's massive. And I think if you really want to see the defense kind of really not just hold on, but actually make some plays, I think you're going to need the best game of the year from Allen and Payne. I think that's kind of been an area that's really been pretty weak this year, is that interior of that defensive line. So if you need a big game, and it's going to be tough, the like I said, the Bucs offensive line is very, very good. But I think if you want to see a defense that actually is not going to just hold on, but is actually going to make plays, it'll come from Allen and Payne making some plays on the interior.
And that goes into my last question for you. We all know that in the playoffs, running the football and stopping the run is objective number one, right? Not allowing them to control the clock on you, especially with our high-powered offense. You don't want to lose that time, right? So how does Washington? How are they going to be able to limit the Bucs rushing attack? I would imagine that if you have Lattimore there, and if he does have a good game, the Bucs are going to know that they're not going to be able to pass as much as they usually did in week one, obviously Godwin being out on top of that. So how does Washington, how are they going to be able to limit this rushing attack? Right now the Bucs are fourth in the league in rushing yards.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I think, like I said, you're gonna need a big game from those interior two. I think Bobby Wagner has saved a lot of problems. He has saved a lot of guys this year from making it look worse than it actually is. It's why he's graded so high for us. What he's doing back there at this age is incredible. So that's going to be kind of the key. You need disruption. Like, you just can't have them constantly moving you to their will. And that's kind of how you stop the run. You just got to shore up that inside of that defensive line, and edges need to keep contained. Just don't do anything outside of your job. Just do your job, do what you're supposed to do. And I think you can kind of make some plays. But again, like I said, they're gonna have five down, 8 in the box. That's what they've really been doing all year. And you got to make plays when you're there. Tackling's been an issue at times as well, so you're gonna have to tackle and just kind of hold on for dear life if you're on the defense.
Absolutely. Well, I know in week one, the screen game and the mesh concepts were big that we were getting eaten up on. And Washington has gotten better at that. And a lot of credit to the defensive line and Bobby Wagner for being able to sniff those out. Nick, before you get out of here, just like to plug your social media handle. Yeah, although you're already big time now, you're on the radio waves.
I don't know about that. Yeah, it's just at PFF_Nick, AKRIDGE. That's where you can come and yell at me about any PFF grades that you hate. That's usually what I'm there for. But that's it. Just Twitter.
Whatever you say, whatever you say, Hollywood. All right, man. I'll see you, Nick. Have a great night, brother.
All right.
Enjoy the game this weekend.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Nick Akridge. Always appreciate his time. Appreciate his time.
Definitely, man.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. Just can't wait for Sunday. He needs to get here ASAP.
Yeah, I was just thinking today. I was like, man, it's already Wednesday.
I know.
With the snowstorm on Monday, which was absolutely chaotic, we got over a foot of snow. Had to shovel my driveway 3 times, and then we had another snow come in that night, and so when I came out in the morning, it was still covered. I had to get to work somehow. I told my wife, I was like, it wasn't until like 40 minutes into my drive that I actually saw black asphalt. The entire drive north for 45 minutes was nothing but snow covered, going like 30 miles an hour. It was crazy. But
Damn.
Let's answer some fan questions before we get into this next guest here. Nobody wants to hear about my snow adventures. But this one from Tony Franchise on Twitter. What will need to be the biggest difference since week 1 for the Commanders to win this game?
I think it's gonna have to be the offense. Like, obviously, the Bucs have a high-powered offense. They have a high-powered run offense. So if they're gonna be able to run the ball on us, like a lot of teams have as of late, and be able to eat away some of that clock and put themselves in second and shorts, third and shorts, third and manageables, whatever it may be, then I think it's going to be on Jayden Daniels in the offense and Kliff Kingsbury, like we were just talking about, to obviously it's going to be it's going to be completely different from what it would look like week one. And I think it's going to be on the offense to not really like keep up with the Bucs putting up points, but if we can get up early on the Bucs and put the pressure on them, that's going to bode well. But I think they're going to need to score probably somewhere between 24 to 27 points, and that's going to be on Jayden Daniels and this offense to do that. So I say the difference mainly for me is going to have to be the offense. It's going to have to be productive and score in the red zone because they did move the ball between the 20s and week one, mostly because Jayden Daniels was scrambling. But I would say that they're going to need to put points on the board and score at least 24 to 27 to be able to beat this Bucs offense.
It's a really good one because they only scored 20 last time. They lost 37-20 in week one. Jayden Daniels only threw for 184 yards in that game, but was our leading rusher with 88 and 2 rushing touchdowns. If you guys can remember, what will be the biggest difference? What will need to be the biggest difference since week one? Tony, what I'll say is the big play defensively. Week one, there was multiple chances for Tampa Bay to really take the cap off the back end of our defense. If you guys can remember that one Jalen McMillan one that he dropped, it was right in his breadbasket. There was another one, I forget.
A couple overthrows.
Yeah, where like they're not going to miss on those this time around. But that being said, this secondary is absolutely different than it was back then. There was one on Mikey Samerstill, the one I talked about, Jalen McMillan, where they do the mesh concept, run Jalen on the outside of it, and Mikey gets caught up in it, goes over top, and just loses sight of his guy. Right. But like that's the sort of thing that I think that will need to be changed. Like from Nick's point of view, Nick talked about having how do you beat Tampa Bay? It's by making their offense convert in the red zone, which right now they are 4th in the league right now in red zone conversion percentage at 66%. So I think that that's a great way to go about it because the one way you could unravel this whole playoff game is allowing the big plays, allowing them to get up early. We've seen with Washington that the games where they're going against very stout run defenses and stuff, they can't run the ball well, right? They're not able to inflict their will upon the opponent, and they've gone down early, and so they're not able to run the football, right? That's something that has to stay here, not allowing quick points to their offense in order for us to be able to have a fighting chance in this game. So the big plays have to be the big difference in this one. And I think that Washington is very much different than they were week one. You can go back to that first pass of the day where Jayden Daniels throws it behind Brian Robinson, right, for negative yards. You can remember that. And there was another play where Jayden escapes, goes, I think, for 12 yards on the left side. But Terry McLaurin and others were just sprinting wide open up down the field. Like Jayden's not missing that this time around. I can guarantee you that. And obviously that same circumstance is probably not going to happen. But I would say that making sure that you're continuing to be a quarterback when you're on the run, Jayden has been a difference maker in that regard. That's something that's going to be huge. Defensively, they are 29th in passing yards, Tampa Bay is, and 4th in rushing yards. So this is a good day for Washington, a good chance for Washington to be able to move the ball down the field. And hopefully, unlike week one where he only threw for 184, you got to make sure you're able to do that this time around. That has to be a major difference in this one. Now let's go to a question by the Colonel Hall. He asks, Tyler Badass's absence against Dallas showed one of B-Rob's limitations. He is strictly a north-south runner and needs that big lead blocker. Even with Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols, we worked out 3 running backs this week before the playoffs. What's going on in our running back room?
Yeah, I think it's like what Nick talked about, where it just comes down to execution, and it comes down to guys holding their block for that extra half a second longer, or maybe getting that chip a half a second extra, or whatever it may be. I just think it really comes down to execution, and really just execution as a whole with the penalties and whatnot. I think it's just been a long, grueling, grinding season, and hopefully come the second season, like Dan Quinn's been talking about, they feel a little bit more rejuvenated, a little bit more locked in, because the penalties are going to kill us in this game. If they have a high penalty, totally going to kill us in this game, especially on penalties that are drive extenders, which has been really a problem in the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, I would say that I think it just comes down to execution and guys really just being focused and locked in and doing their job and not trying to do extra. Basically, just winning your one-on-ones, making your assignment, doing your assignment on the run game, playing and play out, and just staying locked in.
Well, first and foremost, Colonel, I do think that is probably a smart thing for Washington. Like, let's just say you have an injury to one of your running backs that is a multiple game type of thing. You have 3 guys you just worked out that you could pick from that you know how they look in person, right? So you could easily go to that stash in case that were to happen. I don't know if B-Rob is banged up with anything. We know that Austin Eckler coming into this has his own concussion issues coming into the playoffs here. But like that's probably a smart thing for Washington to be able to have some backups, some players just to go to take out of that you've seen in person that you could rely on. That being said, with B-Rob, what's going on in our running back room? B-Rob at times, as of late recently, has a propensity to try to bounce the play outside. Where C-Rod, the reason why he has such good success is because what he's been doing is he'll just run right into our guys' back and just try to squeeze through it. You know what I mean? Like he follows those blocks where B-Rob, I think ever since that Tennessee game and he had that huge run, he's been trying to not manipulate it, but repeat that. And sometimes it goes into the wrong where somebody's waiting there for him because the NFL is just so fast. You don't see that guy until he's right there in front of you, right? And I think that's been happening a lot with B-Rob as of late. But I'm not going to discount B-Rob. Obviously, we need to do more for B-Rob and offensive line-wise, be able to create some more room for him. I'm not sure if he's banged up with anything, but I would imagine that that's why they are working out these guys, just in case something bad does happen. Now, next question from the Colonel Hall, real quick. We also worked out 2 corners, which is more understandable. Benjamin St-Juste has been dreadful, and Michael Davis even worse. I don't expect either of them back next season. Is this a foreshadowing of 2 of our biggest needs postseason?
Oh, yeah, I would say definitely cornerback number 2 opposite Lattimore is of high priority need going into the offseason and next year. And just because, and honestly, you need that cornerback too, hopefully to develop under Lattimore and then eventually become that cornerback number 1, or you draft another guy, whatever it may be. But
we already got a cornerback too, cool.
Oh, Sammerson, I know that. I'm just saying, but like a lot of people say that. I know. I'm just saying a lot of people are saying that they're going to move him back to the slot where like they originally planned once they get into the offseason. But anyway, yeah, I would say that a cornerback is definitely high priority. They need not only guys that can be starters and rotational guys, they need guys that can be depth guys as well, just in case injuries pop up or whatever the case may be. So yeah, cornerback is definitely number 1, if not number 2, on the list of priorities going into this 2025 offseason.
I'm not going to say that running back is going to be one of our biggest priorities this offseason. I do. Huh?
You mean cornerback?
Well, because that was off of the first one as well. He was saying a foreshadowing of like a running back and corner being our 2 biggest.
True, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Corner, Noah has been great. I think that he deserves to come back, of course. We haven't been able to really see Lattimore. So you always would like, because of Lattimore's injury that he has, you can't do anything really about it this year, right? So it would be smart to go into the draft, to draft somebody in case that were to happen, right? But I do think that Noah has played himself into being retained on this football team heading into next season. Mikey can stay himself outside. He has really blossomed into a fantastic outside corner, and you saw that last week against Dallas. He really made them regret throwing to his side. Whenever they needed points, didn't allow it. When they needed a big play, didn't allow it. When they needed a short, good chunky yardage, knocked that ball free. They regretted going after Mikey, and I think that's something they have to continue going with because Mikey has really grown into something special. Do I think corner is going to be the biggest and absolute need for this football team? I don't think so. I think there's other areas that you can go down, specifically once we get into the whole draft process, so we get to see these guys and where they're going to fall. I'm going to start doing my research here soon, but I just don't think that the corner and running back are going to be our 2 of our biggest needs at the moment. Well, as crazy as that seems, I'm just saying I could see other avenues, but it wouldn't.
I would say cornerback just based on the number of guys that are only under contract. You're only going to have Sam Still and Lattimore under contract going into 2025. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying like it's like the number 1 priority because I think edge is honestly like the number 1 position they need to like attack.
My
But
man.
just the sheer number of like guys that are on the roster, you're going to need some cornerbacks. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, to help us go back to the future, we have our special guest that we've tried so hard to get on here, and finally we're able to make some time. Miss Kelsey Nicole Nelson, thank you so much for joining us tonight, ma'am. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your patience with my ever crazy schedule, but always good to be back with you fellas.
Yes, ma'am. And we got to talk about this matchup this weekend. And I know from you, like you kind of had the Baltimore slash DMV perspective on
Yeah.
everything. How big is this game to be in the playoffs for Washington this first year under Dan Quinn? Do you think that he deserves to be in the Coach of the Year discussion?
Ooh, that's a good, honestly, how could you not? Like
Right.
he's done something for Washington. Again, you have millennials, Generation Z, or whatever everybody else younger than us is called. Like they don't know what Washington greatness is, right? And they've only heard the stories about it. So I think now to not only see it, but to witness it, to witness the culture shift, to like see Commanders fans excited again, people finally embracing this name, I might say as well. Like everything's kind of coming together, and as much credit as Jayden Daniels get, and as much credit as the GM should get. You think about all the new faces in Washington, right, that have helped to build this. But Dan Quinn, and let's remember when he was selected, everyone's like, I don't know. Okay, maybe the defense is going to get better for Washington, but offensively, where they really need to get better, will it happen? And like you see guys like excited to play again. Like we're not hearing about locker room issues, right? Like,
Right.
and everyone's testifying to it. Guys that have been through the adversity. So all in all, I think Dan Quinn deserves every type of look and consideration for it because of a 12-win season in Washington, which is pretty much unheard of for a long time for this squad.
Hey, real quick, before we get into the actual playoff matchup, Kelsey, do you think that Kliff Kingsbury leaves this offseason for a head coaching job?
It's tough, right? Like the head coach, I mean, obviously, if you're a coach, right, and he's been a head coach, like that's kind of the pinnacle of your career, right? And to make something like, for when you look back at the end of the day, like you want that resume, but that resume needs kind of that thing that pops, and it's that head coaching. And I think for Kliff Kingsbury, he's been able to use this as resume tape, right, to show like, look, I still got it, and I can build something. But I also think what Washington is building is special, right? So it's like if Washington, I know Washington fans are going to hate me saying this, but if they don't go to the Super Bowl, Washington fans, why would he not want to finish the business that he started here with a quarterback, right? We just rookie season, folks, for Jayden Daniels. Like the ceiling is so high for him. So why not come back and build with this budding offense? So I think Kliff is going to get the looks. But honestly, I could see him staying here because again, what Washington is building when you see them being a contender within the NFC. So again, I don't want to get folks happy because I can't. Money
Right.
is money, right? And you got your family needs and all that type of stuff. But why not be part of something that's growing into something beautiful and special? And then obviously he'll still be attractive, right? If Washington also has a good season next season, especially with what I think this offense can grow into.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think he wants to stay around, build on what we have going on right now because he sees the potential of what next year can be.
Mhm.
And he's still getting paid from Arizona. So, I mean,
That's true.
he's
Look,
making
so
head
the
coach money
pockets are
while
fat
being an
still.
OC. So, Terry McLaurin is a guy that obviously everyone around here in the DMV and has loved forever since his rookie season. And he's been balling out, but like he never got that big national shine, except every now and then when he made like one of his incredible crazy catches. But how great is it to see a guy like Terry, who's just like the best dude in the world, finally get that national shine that he deserves and all the attention he deserves? And what do you think he does Sunday night against this Bucs defense, which has
Ooh.
been giving up some yards lately?
Yeah, so I'm so excited for Terry. Again, you talk about a player who's been here through it all, and still shows up to work every day and puts in the effort. That's Terry McLaurin, right? And as much as I know he deserves a national accolade, I feel like he never was that player, that star player that like always complained about it, right? Like he knew he deserved it, but again, he put his head down, he worked hard. We knew what he was doing in Washington. Maybe the world didn't know, but now to pair him with a comparable quarterback that actually has the competency to be able to put an offense into something special it means something, right? It's kind of like when you're shining and you're doing good work, but your boss is horrible. And like, so nobody really knows what you're doing because there's nobody to advocate for you. Now, Jayden Daniels' accolades advocate for what Terry McLaurin is. So I'm excited for him. And I'm excited he has had the season. I know there's been a couple games, especially lately, right? I think really the world really latching on to what he's been able to do. But also, folks, remember, this is a receiver that the defense is new, was great. So you think about what he has to go up against and what he's still able to do. I think it's special. I think he is going to have a big game. I know everyone's talking about Mike Evans, and look, Mike Evans is special, right? Like when we talk about like receivers at the top of the game, yes. But Terry McLaurin, I would advocate, is also special. And again, just doesn't get the Mike Evans praise. But I think the great thing about Terry McLaurin too is that he still has, again, I think so much greatness he's going to give us. I do think he is going to need a big game from Washington. But honestly, the good thing about if Terry is shut down, that I do still think that there are other guys that can step up for Washington to help Jayden Daniels. Because I think when you look at Washington, you look at the run game, which hasn't been impressive in the last couple of weeks, right? We've been having some trouble running the football, the ground and pound. It needs some work, which means Jayden Daniels is going to have to do what? One, the offensive line is going to have to give him time to throw, or Jayden Daniels is going to have to be special using his legs. When you look at it, he's really been when you think about the run game, it's really kind of been him that Washington has had to rely on. But then two, he's going to have to throw the football. You love to throw it to a guy that has sure hands, right? And Terry McLaurin. But otherwise, like Zacchaeus and other guys are just going to have to be able to get open for, I think, Jayden Daniels to throw the football. But all I want to say, I think Terry knows what Washington has done this season. You can't tell me, and you see how highly he talks about Jayden Daniels. Like it's kind of like that man crush almost. That like it's special. So I feel like he's going to do all in his power to give this offense, some type of legs to stand on. Especially because they're going to have to put up points, right? This Tampa Bay offense, I think they're averaging about 30 points per game, right? So Washington is going to have to put points on the scoreboard. And I think for Washington too, Washington, let's be honest, right? Like all these last games have been close wins. So when you talk about a guy that can be heroic, Terry McLaurin can do that. He's not afraid to be, that guy that does catch the ball in the end zone, the last second or does something to make a play. And I think that's why he can be so special. But again, I think Washington, I'm saying, let's say he can be special, and I think Washington wants him to be, but if he's shut down, there are still ways that Washington can win. And it's good to say that because finally, I feel like there's multiple guys that our quarterback in Washington can actually rely on to make the offense move.
Yeah, and when you said that Terry with the man crush on Jayden Daniels, like Terry is all of us at this moment, right? That's just how we're all feeling, Kelsey.
Yeah.
But my next question for you, you kind of talked about how Washington the last couple of games have been, kind of squeakers that they've gotten away with at the end of the game, but it's 5 straight, right? Is momentum a real thing going into the playoffs?
For sure. I love that they're playing Tampa Bay because when I was working for the team, they played Tampa Bay in the playoffs. That was back in 2020. And I'm like, here we go again, like deja vu. And if you guys remember when we had Taylor Heineke that game, Washington almost gave Tampa Bay a run for their money. I know it's a completely different team now, but I think what's so special, like Washington is that team you don't want to play, right? Because they have the momentum at the right time and you just don't know who you're going to get. And that's a scary team. And then I think also for Washington, again, what Jayden Daniels can do so young. He can beat you multiple ways. Now, when we've seen him make mistakes, it's against what? It's against the blitz. That's going to be a problem, right? I think Tampa Bay going to this defensive series are like, oh, if there is a thing, let's put some pressure on Jayden Daniels. But all that to say, I feel like Jayden is prepared for the moment, and it's not too big for him. And so I think that's going to be what's special. Like he's the most calm, cool, collected, like 12-5 guy like ever, it feels like, with what he's doing, and he's focused. I love also, I gotta say, fellas, that he's out with his mom, not getting distracted by any of this other stuff, that Washington can do. I feel like he's good at keeping the main thing, which is also so special. So all in all, excited. And again, you can't say this about every rookie, right? Like, but I feel like Washington, with the pieces that are assembled, they have a fighting chance. Like I'm going on Tampa Bay radio on Sunday right before the game, and I'm going to say the same thing. I really feel like this is a game that can be anybody's game. I think honestly, this game is going to come down to turnovers. Who can create turnovers and who can do the less turnovers? With Jayden Daniels, got to protect that football, right? Can't throw any interceptions in this one. Like you're just gonna have to play safe football. Because remember, on the other side of it, you have a hungry Baker Mayfield who's really re-energized, revitalized, right? His career in a sense. Like, Baker, I think honestly, is another quarterback that's not getting enough attention. I think, just because of his background, kind of an up and down career, but like I feel like finally finding his footing. So you also know, like, a hungry guy on the other side of the football. Like, and he's also going to give his all to make sure that the world knows like what they're seeing in Baker Mayfield. So all in all, I'm excited about this one, but I love truly what we're seeing from Jayden Daniels. And sorry, Kyle, if I got away from the question. I'm getting passionate about this team and watching and watching the team, but this is going to be a good one. And again, I think though this team has some youthfulness, but also the veteran leaders on the squad and with what Dan Quinn has built, again, I don't think this moment is too big. And as you kind of said, I think the momentum for Washington is going to be hard. So I think for Tampa Bay, they're going to have to come out strong. If they get the ball first, they're going to want to score on that first scoring drive. If you look at that Cowboys game, or you're going to have to get touchdowns against Washington, not field goals, because this is a team that can come back at the end and has had special fourth quarters. I think if Tampa Bay starts slow, they're going to be in trouble in this football game. So if I'm Tampa Bay, I want to get out. I want to score fast because I know, as you said, this team is undefeated lately, and that they can make things happen at the end of football games if the score is close.
Right. And, it's funny because you brought up Jayden Daniels' kind of personality. And I said on Sunday, it reminds me of my teammate from high school in flag and Brandon Martin, who's the current head coach of Clarksburg right now for their football program.
No, you played with Brandon. That's
yeah.
right.
Oh yeah, Brandon's my boy. Yeah. So that's like that personality. It's not very rah-rah, but it's not introvert, but it's just leading by confidence and that kind of quiet confidence, and that's exactly what Jayden Daniels has had. And so a lot of credit to you for bringing that up because you're absolutely right. Sorry, Hall.
Yeah, because think about it. He could get a big headed if he wanted to, right? Like I'm a quarterback, like I'm doing all this stuff. And the nation's capital, I finally turned the squad around. These fans have been hungry, but instead it's so different. Like even when he's on the Jumbotron at Wizards games, I feel like he's like that guy that's like, oh, hi guys. Oh, you guys are talking to me and I'm getting all this love. It's like he's still surprised even by his own journey in a good way. And I think that humbleness, I'm one of those people that always say, be humble, don't be humbled. And I think that's exactly what Jayden Daniels exhibits.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like you said, we've seen guys that haven't reached like the status and taken the team where Jayden has taken them, and they've gotten big headed. So it's definitely a humble beast. But the defensive side of the ball obviously has been a question all year. They've had their ups, their downs, just like the team has had their ups and downs. Yeah. But who do you think is going to be the key person on defense to kind of makes the play of the game, or is the key player on the defensive side of the ball that's going to be helpful for the team to hopefully pull out a win on Sunday?
My gosh, there's so many guys, and I think that deserve so much credit on the defense. And it's exciting to talk about that, with Washington, when I think, coming into the season, again, we were looking at that defense and what they would be able to do after all the hype that had kind of been around this defense in recent years. Frankie Lou was honestly one of my favorite guys. Like, I don't know how you don't love what he brings to the table. Bobby Wagner and what his veteran presence brings to the defensive side of the football. I think, the other guy that should deserve a lot more credit is Jeremy Chin. I think lately he's been able, to have that name and step up. When I'm looking at it, I think if I'm Tampa Bay, and again, I talked about the problems that Washington defense has. I think it's about 150 run yards they're allowing. So if I'm Tampa Bay, I want to run the football, right? So who's going to be able to actually step up and stop that? And I think for Washington, this is when those veteran guys, will be able to have that presence. I could talk about Mike and, what he's able to do, but I think the veteran presence is going to pay off in this part of the season. So honestly, I love the energy that Ricky Luvu brings. Honestly, I look forward to those post-game locker room because I like big personalities, and he's definitely one of them. But I really think that's going to be big. I know everyone's talking about Lattimore as well, and what he might be able to do, right? Kind of full practice participant today, healthy. Which I think is good. I know he also has some history with Mike Evans. I love that the battles that they've had. But yeah, I think Wagner, Luvu, like Chin, I think those are kind of the guys I'm looking to hopefully step up. I think it's going to be the name guys that need to step up in this game against, again, a Tampa Bay squad that's hungry and ready to prove itself.
Absolutely. Now, Kelsey, to wrap this up, only a couple more questions for you. But like you had talked about, Washington defensively, they're 30th in rushing yards, averaging on average 137.5 per game. Is there what does Lattimore contribute at all at being able to help that in the running game?
Yeah, I think there's a big question. So, I've been looking at this game, and I think as much, you look at Lattimore, he's played 2 games, right, since he's been here, right? Because obviously had the injury. And Tampa Bay, if you're going into this game, it makes you wonder, right? Like Lattimore, is he fully healthy, right? I know he's healthy at practice, but playing a full game with contact, things can happen. So I think with Lattimore, you play a safe game. I would love to see him potentially. The problem is this, though, you all. Baker is good against the blitz. I think he's like one of the top quarterbacks
We saw
against.
that in week 1.
Yes, right. Like exposing Washington.
Yeah.
And you think about the run game, like what do you want to do to kind of stop that while not exposing what he can also pass the football? So I think it's going to be interesting how Washington has to use him. But again, I'm curious. Like I've heard Tampa people talking about like, do you try to like attack that hamstring? Like is Lattimore fully there? So I say all that to
Please
say
do.
like you want to be careful. I think a lot of injuries, and folks realize this, a lot of injuries do happen on the tackling of running plays. Again, you're in tight quarters, right? Your body gets kind of bent and shifted in different ways. So I still have to say, Kyle, I would be safe with him. But if there's anybody that I trust on that defense that knows what it means and can kind of do anything you need him to do, it would be him. But I'm just a little bit healthy, and I'm a little bit worried of the health aspect of the game. Just again, because of his history since he's been here in Washington, though I know how great of a player he is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, with Jayden Daniels, obviously his year, you can't really quantify it for Washington fans and just how much he's meant to us. But, like Washington fans are not scared to say that they think that he should be in the MVP conversation when you just look at the definition of what a most valuable player is. Do you think there's any warrant to that?
I like Jayden Daniels a lot, and I know there's a lot of comparison to a guy next door and Lamar Jackson, but I will tell you, as someone who faithfully watches pretty much all the Commanders and Ravens games, what Lamar Jackson has done, I think is a class in its own. Now, warranted, I do think Jayden Daniels can be talked about. His numbers are strong. As you said, we talk about MVP, what he's done for almost, you could say, a franchise that had been lifeless for a bit. Like, fans kind of getting complacent with complacency because they kind of knew what this team, was pretty much going to be every year. But I also it's also important not to discredit again what Lamar Jackson has done. A quarterback that has done it in passing yards this year and running yards this year. You think about the games that the Ravens won, Lamar Jackson was he was special, in those games. I think this year, honestly, though, Kyle, is one of the most fun years for MVP because I know Josh Allen is another guy that's been talked about. I think he's been great as well. Joe
Saquon.
Burrow, elite. Yes, I'm using that word. Like, what he's been able to do. I know there's talk about Saquon and what he was able to do. Sorry, Saquon, about that record. Just so he knows, I was an advocate for him playing at least a half so he could break the record. I got to put that on record. But I will say Jayden, I think he can be talked about, but I'm a little bit hesitant still. I think sometimes, Kyle, we get excited here because we're not used to nice things sometimes.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my God, push him in. But, again, he was special, but I think I'm very careful to put him next to Lamar Jackson. Like Lamar Jackson is something that we haven't seen. And, I'm like Derrick Henry right now. I'm saying MV3 for him. Jayden Daniels is like JD great. But Lamar Jackson, I just think I wouldn't put Jayden in that category. But all that to say, Jayden Daniels' ceiling is high, and fellas, I wouldn't be surprised if we're giving him an MVP within the next couple of seasons. He's special.
Absolutely love it. I'm sure Jayden would not mind trading the MVP for a playoff win this year. And
sure.
A lot of Washington fans will probably agree with me in that sense. But that being said, Kelsey, to wrap this up, my last question for you. Does Washington win the game this weekend?
It's a tough one. I've honestly been going back and forth about this game. If Mike Evans is so hard to shut down, but also I think Mike Evans is good. It's a lot of pressure on him. But again, I told you Tampa's run game. I think if Washington can find some type of answer to stop Tampa's run defense and really make Mike Evans have to work, I do think Washington can win this game. Washington, again, they've had success actually converting in the red zone, which is huge. So I think that's going to be the other thing. Can they be able to actually get touchdowns in it? I think Washington can win this game. I think it's going to be a close battle. If Washington wins, I will say it's going to be one of those special games like we've seen, one of those Washington heroics where they come back and win, no time left on the clock. But this one, I will say, I'm not quickly just giving it to Washington because, again, I think I've seen this Tampa Bay team, and they can be special. Again, it's going to come over to turnovers. If Baker throws picks or a pick, again, I think Washington can get it. Can this defense create turnovers? But all in all to say, I'm going to give the win to Washington because I'm right now riding on this high, but I think it's going to be a close one. And also, I do think people are underestimating this team. I know Dan Quinn got asked this question, like, how is the team embracing, the underdog mindset? And essentially said, we're ready to fight. Like, we're going into this game fighting. We've been fighting. And I think that fighting mindset is going to carry Washington far. So Tampa Bay, watch out. But I think it's gonna be a closer game than folks think, but Washington right now, I think they're gonna stun the world.
Yeah, I would not discount special teams and the possibility of a
Those
points
big
or
special
turnover
teams,
there, to your point, Kelsey. So hopefully you're
yeah.
right in that regard, in Washington's favor, of course. But before we get out of here, I'd like to plug your social media handle and your show, just in case anybody watching want to come
Yeah.
follow you.
No, I appreciate it, fellas. Well, yep, I am online at the Real K Nelson. Check out my website, KelseyNicoleNelson.com. If you're in the area, check out me at American Women's Basketball Games, doing some color commentating now. So shout out to Women Hoops. So actually, after this, I got to go watch Maryland face USC and Juju Watkins. So also check out for my coverage there. And then check out my show, Listen In with Kana. And actually have Doug Plank. If you remember that Bears defense, that infamous Bears defense, he'll be joining me on the show tomorrow and actually helping me also to preview this upcoming game that Washington has, and talking about the future of Caleb Williams and what's going on in Chicago. So super, super excited, fellas. Thank you so much.
Get ready for that conversation, Kelsey. Have a good weekend. Enjoy it. Enjoy the Ravens game on Saturday. Hopefully both of our boys can win. All right. Have a great one, Kelsey.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, everybody. We just talked with fantastic guests. It's always a pleasure to talk with Kelsey on here, because she does bring a different perspective in a lot of sense. I do appreciate her time.
She's from Mocha, so that's always nice.
Well, she went to my high school. That's how she knows Brandon. And so that's what I was saying.
Right.
I've only seen one personality type, like Jayden's, and that is Brandon's, where you know what I'm talking about. He was our teammate in flag, our quarterback. And
even though he would be making some crazy plays, balling out in flag, and he would just be like, you dap him up, he'd be like, oh, yeah, thanks, man, appreciate it. Never like, oh, I'm balling, like talking crap and nothing like that. Like every once in a while, you know what I'm saying? But like you said, it was just that humble type of like, I know I'm a beast, but I'm not gonna like put it in your face or like throw it in your face.
Well, I'll never forget when he juked that one Asian guy out of his cleats, and his whole team was laughing at him, and it was like, dude, that is so wrong. But like I meant more so like in the personality type of Brandon, where Brandon is a very quiet individual, but people like look up to Brandon and wanting to not let him down, and he doesn't do it in a very like aggressive type manner, right? And that's where I get with Jayden, where like around men you could see why they look, not only like is he younger than them, but they like look up to him. Like you see Michael Dieter telling him I love you, and everyone's saying it. You know, like that's like that kind of personality is hard to come by. But to wrap this up, let's get into some fan questions, and then we'll predict this score this weekend, brother. This question was submitted by Tim Towner in the Discord. Just heard someone on a pod state that, quote, we could upset Tampa Bay, unquote. Made me question, if we are the underdog, should we be favored over any other playoff team? Not asking if we can win, rather have we been insulted?
No, I don't think we've been insulted. I mean, if you're going like NFC and AFC side, I think we'd be favored maybe against the Broncos, just because, again, rookie quarterback, first time in the playoffs. So you don't really know what you're going to get, and Tampa's the home team. So, I mean, they're only getting like 3 points, so like technically it's a pick 'em. So it can go either way if you're like in the betting world. But yeah, I would say that we're not being overlooked or underlooked or whatever you want to call it. I just think people are looking at Washington like this is a good story. This is the beginning of something that could be something special down the line. But rookie quarterback, first time in the playoffs, the talent on the roster on both sides of the ball is not up to the, I guess, not I'm going to say like the better talent of some of the other teams in the playoffs that we're going to be facing potentially, especially going against the Bucs on Sunday. So I would say that, they've been underlooked and overlooked since the beginning of the season. Like no one thought we'd be in this point and be in this place in the beginning of the season in the first place. So yeah, I would say that they're just where they want to be, which is what they've been doing all season, which is not staying under the radar, but just being humble beasts, kind of following the personality of Jayden, just taking on the personality of Jayden of like, we know we're balling, we know we're good, but we're just humble about it.
You just had to say it. You just had to take what I was going to say.
I knew what you were thinking. You know what I'm saying?
You just had to take it. And yes, you're absolutely right, dude. Of course they're going to be underdogs coming into this. Like it's literally what the offseason was crammed into 1 week before a playoff game. This rookie quarterback, not a lot of talent around him. You can't really expect all that much. 6 wins. Well, guess what happened? You know, they caught fire. They found a way to win football games. That can happen this weekend. Everybody has been saying this, and expertly so, Tim, that Washington is the team you don't want to play because they don't have expectations. Like they don't, like, nationally speaking, like in that sense where like there is the future is bright, but you're in the you're in the shit, dude. Like it's time to make shit happen. And Washington is that sort of team where it's not like they have to depend on these all-stars. It's not like they have to depend on Jayden Daniels solely. They have other avenues to go down, and it's the team altogether that is really their strength. And that is not something that you want to face in the playoffs because you can shut down somebody's superstar. Well, do you have other outlets to be able to go to? Can you lean on those other outlets to be able to get it done? And the crazy thing about Washington is, leading up to this week, somebody new has balled out every single week to help them win football games. OZ did it. Zach Ertz did it. Terry McLaurin did it. Dallas game, right? Like every week somebody else has done, and it's very reminiscent of the Nats World Series title run. I'm not saying Super Bowl run for Washington. I'm just saying that kind of recipe where somebody new is getting added, that is something that you are concerned about as an opposing team. So are we disrespected? Not at all. This is where we've been. This is where we started. But this is what we do. We just go out and fight and play football games, and we fight to the bitter end, and we usually take as much out of them as possible, and that's what they said when they walked in here. So I'm glad that it happened. Next question from Tim Towner Hall. I keep hearing about our issues running the ball as well as stopping the run. And in my opinion, the way to address these weaknesses is to focus on areas of strength. So I was wondering, what do you see as our areas of strength?
Our area of strength is, I mean, it has been the running game. I know we're averaging like 130 something like per game, like you said, but I would say that the strength of the team is them just being a team. Like there's not really like anything that they there's not really like one thing they do like specifically like so great. Like they're really good at running the ball at times and points and times, especially with Jayden Daniels obviously being back there. The passing game has been up and down, but mostly been up because Jayden Daniels. So I would say that our strength is they're just a solid team overall with a Superman at quarterback.
It's the Island of Misfit Toys with a young Lion King at quarterback leading them and a damn good backup behind him who is also a leader of men. This team is the strength of them is them all in the process, the camaraderie, the relationships that they have built, the work ethic that is just from the top down, especially by Jayden Daniels, just the consistency and the way that he goes about his business and work ethic. I think Dan Quinn was very smart in the way that he said that, like, you're not doing anything special in the playoffs. You've been doing what you've been doing. There's obviously more energy attributed to it, but you want to direct that energy to Sunday night, right? Where your process game in and game out of learning how to win, of being able to look at your other players, look at the game plan, be able to figure that's already stuff that you've ironed out throughout the entire season. What this is, go in with the same mindset you have every week. And if you go in with that same mindset, you're consistent with it, and you go do your job, you're going to be in a very good position to win. And given with what this team has done momentum-wise last 5 games, if you have a chance to win, they have a very, very good chance to win. So what is their strength? Honestly, it's their team and the bend but don't break on defense, the opportunistic kind of way of getting out to the quarterback when they need to be able to give the ball back to the offense in some high-pressured situations is another thing. But this is a week that I'm asking for special teams to get me the football. This would be huge to be able to get that for us. I know Jeremy Reeves is biting at the bit to be able to do that. Get me the ball, Jeremy. Get me the ball. Now, the next question we have is from Deluxe. B-Rob was highest paid commander week 1 with 89 total yards and 1 touchdown. Jayden had 88 yards rushing. Tampa has a top run defense and bottom of the league pass defense. 24 passes week 1 of the regular season with 30 runs. Does that flip in week 1 of the playoffs? How many plays does Washington get on offense? And what is the split to get a victory?
How many plays did they run week 1, you said?
They had 54 in total. They had 30 passing and 24 passing, 30 runs.
I would say that's probably going to be flipped just because I feel like coming into this game to kind of loosen up the defense because they are a really good run defense. They're going to have to kind of get that quick passing game going. I know people aren't going to want to hear this, but the screen game, the horizontal passing game going a little bit to kind of widen out the defense, stretch the defense a little bit so that they can open up those running lanes for B-Rob, Jayden, whoever it might be. So I would expect them to come out like Kliff has been doing for the past couple of weeks, where he's going to run it a couple times here and there, but I think that first 15 is going to be a little bit more pass heavy than people want it to be. But I think he's thinking down the line of, let me kind of try to stretch the defense out a little bit to get some running lanes, to get some gaps going for the offense, and to also a guy like Vita Vea, who's a huge human being, to kind of get him second guessing. And I forget the other guy they have on the interior, but he's really good, to kind of get them second guessing, get them winded, running sideline to sideline, those bigger guys. And that way you can kind of open up the middle of the field with B-Rob and Eckler and whoever it may be. So, and as far as offensive plays go, I think they're going to have to run probably 60 plus, just because time of possession game. If you're running 60 plus plays, that means you're probably converting third downs. You're probably like driving for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes to hopefully put points on the board. So I would say that 60 plus, 63, 62, whatever it may be, is probably hopefully the goal that they hit. And I would say that the running game and the passing game will be flipped, where it'll be a little bit more pass heavy, but it's to open up the running game for B-Rob.
Well, first off, this is a trick question, because does that include Jayden Daniels' rushes like that he had in the game? Because a lot of those were the pass breakdowns where he just escapes out of it.
Yeah.
Right. So you could say that was still more pass plays than run plays, right? Just based on how many times Jayden ran.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Do they count the scrambles?
Right.
As
like that's what I'm asking Deluxe.
Yeah.
I don't know what he used to be able to measure what is a run play, what's a pass play, if he just looked off the rushes, right? So I would say that you're probably going to go into it the same mindset. I would say that Kliff, you're going to see the bag. You're going to see things that they've been working on behind closed doors. I'd be willing to bet they weren't really testing or experimenting in these last couple games because they wanted to keep some stuff back there, much more so with the basic kind of stuff to say.
Side note, I'm surprised he did that trick play in Dallas and then save that for like Tampa or the playoffs or something, but that was a nice play.
It was a great play. Absolutely was. Washington needed it at that time, and they probably have more of them. I could be willing to bet, just saying they used that a lot, and especially in the run game, we haven't seen them using that misdirection as much as they used to do. I would beg the question to see if that turns this weekend, but I would say that it has to be half and half. The plays themselves, I think that you just got to score points. This is not the time to be kicking field goals, right? We got to convert. And that's what this week is going to come down to, is converting when you can and getting turnovers. Now, the next question from Deluxe, real quick, Hall. You know Tampa is going to run cover 0 at random times. What does Jayden do differently this week?
I think that he sees the field better than he did week 1 when they were throwing every single type of blitz known in the Todd Bowles playbook at him. So I think that, like we were talking about, stuff was there. Kliff was dialing it up. It's just Jayden, first game of his career in the NFL. I guess he's trying to get used to the speed of the game a little bit. And maybe it was nerves, who knows? But he just wasn't seeing what he was seeing pretty much from –
It wasn't slowed down yet.
Exactly, from second half of week 2, week 3, all the way till now. So I would say differently is he's either going to stand in there like he's done, find the open guy, the man coverage guy, one-on-one guy, usually Terry, and hit him for a deep shot and take a hit like a true GOAT quarterback, or he's going to break outside the pocket, make something shake with his legs, or get outside the pocket to throw. So I do think that the way that he handled the pressure in week 1 is going to be a complete 180 from how he's going to handle the pressure coming from Todd Bowles in this playoff game.
With Tom Brady, when Tom Brady was in the playoffs, right, what made Tom so good? What made Tom, because Tom wasn't the strongest arm, he wasn't the most accurate quarterback, right? Obviously he was very good with accuracy, but he wasn't like number 1 every year, right? Like Tom didn't really have a superpower, so to speak. What Tom knew what to do was where to go with the football and win. If they are doing their cover 0 blitz, what would Tom Brady do? He'd dump it to the running back and say, go make me a play, keep the chain short. And that's what I would imagine Jayden is going to do. I don't want Jayden being Superman against cover 0. Just find the weakness. And when you send cover 0, your weakness is so many guys turning their backs, running with your wide receivers. Let your running backs go to work. Let them do something for you. And we got a guy in Austin Eckler who has a lot of a lot of freshness on his legs right now, and that's somebody to take advantage of, in my personal opinion. So what does Jayden do against cover zero? Break it down, find your outlet, find the opening, find your free man, don't panic, get the ball to him. Stand in there, take it on the chin, and fire that ball out of there. And I'm sure that he will do that because he has shown the propensity to stand in there and take that shot on the chin and deliver a good football. Now let's predict this game. Thank you, Deluxe. Let's predict this game, dude. How do you think it's going to go, Unsung Hero?
Man, been waiting so long for a playoff game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think both defenses are going to have their moments or make their plays here and there, but for the most part, it's going to be up and down the field for both of these offenses. I'm hoping that the offense doesn't come out and they're slow and stale, and it kind of takes them a little bit to get going. Hopefully, they come out and from the jump they get it going. But my unsung hero is going to be. It's going to be heavy on stopping the run this week. I think they're going to give up some stuff. They're going to get gashed here and there, but I do think that I'll say the defensive line as a whole is the unsung hero because I do think they're going to get after Baker like they did in week one, and I do think that they will bring him down a couple times more than they did in week one. I think they only got him like maybe one sack on him week one or something like that, 1 or 2 sacks maybe.
Got a bunch of hands on him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They put hands on him. He broke out his stuff. So I do think they put hands on him and get him down this time. And there will be a sack by one of the defensive linemen, Luvu, whoever it may be, at a critical point in the game that will either be a game-changing or game-turning play. So I'll say the defensive line is my unsung hero for the game. And honestly, like my brain is probably saying that Tampa wins a close one, like 31 to like 28, like last-minute field goal type of thing. But, I mean, we've been the cardiac kids for the last 5 weeks. I think we keep it going this week for another 6th time in a row. So even though my brain is saying Tampa squeaks one out, I'm going to go with my heart in this one because I've waited for this playoff game for many, many years now. I'll go Washington wins this one. It's a close one, like I said, shootout. I'll go Washington 31, Tampa 30.
All right. You went with the win. I'm with it, bro. I'm with you there. I do think it's going to be close. I think 30-27, 30-28 sort of realm is what we are looking at. I'll say the unsung hero I'll put is Jeremy Reeves or Nick Bellor on special teams. Obviously, Tyler Owens being put on IR. I would love to be able to select him, but the special team is going to be huge in this game. I think that Washington has all the ability to be able to make this happen. It's just, as the team, they need to play all 3 phases for all 4 quarters. And the best case scenario for Washington is getting up big early and forcing them into passing situations. Coming into this game, Washington is 3rd in passing yards allowed, which is crazy to think about on defense. But in rushing yards, they're obviously 30th back into the league. If you can force them into those passing situations, you're going to be a much better off looking forward, right? And obviously that's what everyone would like. But this is the game you want to get up early on, and you want to be able to put them in those scenarios. And that way, like you said, Frankie Luvu, Dante Fowler, who has double-digit sacks, somebody that can come in and clean up and do some work for you, who has a propensity to put the ball on the ground of the quarterback, force fumbles. Let's get on top of some of those. You know what I'm saying? Yep. But I think Washington they're ready for it, man. I hope they come out and they play in this. The other unsung hero I'll say is Dyami Brown. I know that Tampa is really not the greatest in passing yards defensively. Coming into this game, they're 29th, just south of 250 yards per game. With eyes on Terry, everyone knows that Terry's there. I could see Dyami really coming through for us in this one. And don't forget about OZ over there, too. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you to everyone who submitted fan questions into this. Deluxe, thank you, Tim Towner. Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, Tony Franchise. Thank you to Kelsey. Thank you to Nick Akridge for Pro Football Focus for joining us and giving us some input. I am freezing. I am in my garage. I cannot feel my fingers at this point, but you know what? I'm sorry. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys again on Sunday after actually possibly Monday. I don't know how it's going to go depending on how the playoff game is. I might just be doing a solo pod, like a 30-minute one. But, you know, I need to get up at like 4 or 5 in the morning next day. I'll talk to my boss. We'll see what I can do. But everyone, enjoy the playoff game. Just remember, that this is a monumental moment for this football team to achieve something that nobody has really thought was possible in a playoff win. This is a very good situation for them to go down into. They're not in the cold. They're down in Florida. You can play your game. Go do your thing. Play your game of football and bring us home a dub. We would absolutely love it. And put everyone to sleep who's been talking about we haven't beat good teams. Shh. Watch this. All right, everybody. We'll see you again on Sunday. Enjoy the playoff game. Good luck to everybody traveling down there. Be loud. We'll see you on Sunday night, hopefully. Washington football.
Get the chance. Defense.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.